Right off the bat, this video is for everyone. Okay, whether you're a grizzled veteran who's been playing TTRPGs for 30 years and you don't need some young snowflake telling you how to be safe. Understandable. Or you're someone brand new to D&D and TTRPGs alike, and you're trepidatious about the idea of roleplay and all the things that come along with it. Can playing that chaotic evil character have negative effects on your psyche? Right? Even worse, can playing that lawful good character make you a boring stiff? We're going to answer this and much more in this episode of Dungeon Dramatics, Staying Safe While Role-Playing. I know you're not expecting this, but yes. The answer is yes, role-playing, and role-playing truthfully, will have lasting effects on you and the people sitting beside you at your table. And this is a beautiful thing. I was at a panel at PAX Unplugged this year called Why We Tell Sad Stories, and I heard a perfectly exemplified story that talks exactly about what I'm talking about now. And it talked about how a player in this DM's party had just tragically lost a brother, and how after some time, they bravely decided to play a character who had also lost a brother. And this choice they made allowed the player to explore these feelings and what they were going through in an inconsequential, safe space surrounded by supportive friends who allowed them to go through this and find, a way out possibly, and find thought processes that are harder to do when you're in the outside world, right? They found solace in the experience they went through at the table. And just the only thing I'm going to warn you about doing this is that just remember it is a game with other people, so it's not therapy. But I love that story because it touches on two things, right? Catharsis and connection. I mean, how beautiful is it that through this game, right, people are able to process some of the most dark and traumatized parts of themselves that they may not even be able to process, outside of this space. Whether it's because of the pressures that everyday life puts on us or our culture as a whole, it's a beautiful thing, but equally as beautiful are the bonds that come from a collective group of people choosing to be the most vulnerable parts of themselves around each other. And I think this is why my most personal bonds are friendships, and they're strongest with the people who I've met in these vulnerable spaces, such as D&D tables and acting schools. Like I said in the last chapter, you're always going to be playing yourself, and you were just finding the character inside of yourself. Now, this reality can be scary, right? Especially when you are playing characters that do evil things. I've played a lot of evil characters in films and at the table, and honestly, I was really scared when I first started doing this because I thought it would somehow make me evil, or even scarier, make me realize that the character is not so evil after all. I'm probably, closer to what we assume is ourselves and everybody around us. The truth I came to understand was that no, I was not in danger. To the contrary, gaining the perspective that most of the time, it's hurt people that hurt people, right? People are born good, it's just that bad things happen to them most of the time, has made me a more empathetic person. However, there are boundaries that need to be put in place, right? Boundaries that you can apply to your role playing. So the term widely used in the tabletop gaming space is called bleed. Now, bleeding is when your feelings from your everyday life carry into your game and vice versa. For example, let's say you had a really bad day at work and some of those frustrated feelings came out at the table. Or maybe your character falls for another character in the party, and once the game is over, you continue feeling that way for a bit. These things are normal, right? And the simple fix is to give yourself a grace period to get into character and a grace period to get out of character. And this grace period can last for 30 minutes or even an hour. And during that time, you can even have your own routine. I personally enjoy listening to music that either brings me back to reality. Like maybe after playing D&D, I'll go in my car and listen to Kendrick Lamar, and kind of feel closer to myself. But I mean, getting into character, I'm probably going to listen to something like The Amazing Devil, But whatever works for you is good. Now, on top of grace periods, you need to know that when you create a character, especially a character you plan on using for a long-form campaign, you are going to be acting from their perspective a lot. And when you start doing it well, you're going to be thinking their thoughts. And this is a complex thing that we'll get into down the line. It's not really like a beginner acting technique, but we will get there eventually. And that being said, you need to make sure that when you are thinking these characters' thoughts, that this is a headspace that you are comfortable being in for long periods of time. One of my favorite examples of this is Marisha Ray from Critical Role fame. Here, take a look at this clip.
And there were a few games that I would leave from, and I would kind of have a little bit of this like anger and frustration, and it was like pissing me off, inhabiting her. So I started getting oddly nervous, and I was like, do I want this person in my head for potentially the next 3 years?
Yeah.
I don't know. So much was defined by Keyleth that I did get nervous. And then so Bo ended up teaching me a whole new set of lessons of, I'm not defined by this character that I am playing. I can separate it. And eventually, with more time, and it's already happened, so this was, post thoughts, that I would think I would find empathy and start understanding people like Bo, a little bit more. And it has. And I was looking for her growth and where she would change. And I wanted to start her one way so that we could see where that would lead. But yeah, there was a hot second where I was like, is this oddly toxic?
Yeah.
I love how that clip perfectly exemplifies what I was talking about. Now, last but not least, it is totally okay to talk to your group during session 0 about things you aren't comfortable seeing or participating with at the table. There are lots of subjects that you don't need at your table. And if your party is insistent on bringing these to the table after you voiced your concerns, then it's totally okay to say, hey, this is probably going to be a fun time, but this game isn't for me. I'm sure that your party will accept that and you'll find the right table for you, because there are an endless amount of tables out there. Now, I really hope you found this video helpful. And if you did, please leave a like and subscribe, because it means the world to us at Wither and Bloom. And remember, this is the second video in the Dungeon Dramatic series. And I'm aiming to take you from beginner and make you into the best role player you can be. Okay, so check back every week, and check back next week for choosing the right character to role play. Thank you once again, and have a good Christmas.